the second take of the Cold Hard Facts with Brady. First take kind of had some technical difficulties, so now we're back. For those of you who don't know, I'm sitting here with Larry, the Bears owner, so a division rival. How's it going, Larry?
I can't complain, man. Ready to start off season 7. Got a big game tonight. I'm going to jump right in with a plug for my YouTube channel where you can see me take on B-Dot, the Falcons, probably kicking off anywhere between 10 and 10:30 Eastern time. It's youtube.com/LTrain1Tweezy. That's LTRAIN, the number 1, and then Tweezy. Just look for the link. Should be must-watch TV. I can't say it's going to be the game of the week because, in all fairness, that would probably need to go to the Super Bowl rematch. But when B-Dot and I square off, it's usually a very cerebral matchup, very evenly matched. Always a tough battle, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm amped.
Okay. So I'm going to jump right into the questions here. Excuse me. Question 1. What's your favorite NFL team?
That should probably be easier for me to answer than it really is because, truth be told, I'm not really that huge of an NFL fan. I was more so when I was a kid, but at this stage in my life, I'm pretty much a college football nut, and anybody that knows me around the league is well aware of that already. But growing up, I was a Colts fan. I was born in Indiana. Didn't really live there very long, but that was enough to get me following the Colts. The problem was they sucked really bad back then. That was in the Dickerson days. I think they did have one wild card run, but other than that, it was pretty paltry. They did kind of pull off that Cinderella run to the AFC title game in, I believe, '95. So I did have my little Marshall Faulk authentic Wilson Sports jersey. That was their manufacturer back then. So I did pull for the Colts. I live in Atlanta now, so I really should be a Falcons fan, or probably more of one than I am, especially given the run they're on now. I don't know if many people around the league know this, but I actually did work for the Falcons for about 3 weeks. That was my first job out of college, and it's kind of ironic that I went to school at Georgia Tech, and the average starting salary for a tech graduate is over $50,000. And then I come out and I get an offer letter from the Falcons for a seasonal equipment position making minimum wage. So that was a pretty good sign that wasn't going to last long. I kind of wanted to do more than just equipment, and I was there for training camp. And, most of the guys were pretty cool to work with. The equipment guy that I was working for, though, he was kind of a major ass kiss, and probably 2 weeks in, Alex Gibbs, the legendary offensive line coach, jumped down his ass at practice, wondering where I was to put the plays on the board during practice, and the equipment guy had told me to go run the 45-second clock. So he starts dog cussing me, telling me to get down there. So he pretty much threw me under the bus, and I was like, I don't really want to work for this guy. So I ended up going back to Georgia Tech and worked another season there. But I do like to see the Falcons do well. I'm actually a good friend of mine, Miss Dan Quinn's special assistant, so I really wanted to see her get a Super Bowl ring. But, like I said, I don't live and die with the Falcons. I've actually never been to a Falcons game. I've been to a Super Bowl in the Georgia Dome, but I never went inside the Georgia Dome and saw the Falcons play, so that's kind of ironic as well.
Huh. Interesting. So you said you went back and worked at Georgia Tech, so were you like an equipment manager there or something, too, since you said that's what you came out of college as?
Yeah, I started off in the equipment room at Georgia Tech, so you get assigned to a position, and I worked with the defensive line the first couple of years, which is really one of the least cerebral positions on the field. But I really took to it, and I got to know a lot of the coaches, and I ended up doing it for 5 years as an undergrad, and kind of worked my way up, and was important enough that after I graduated, the defensive coordinator asked me to come back and work another season after I graduated, so they set up a little thing for me to get some money under the table. And by that point, on game days, I was in the coach's box wearing a headset. I was charting the plays for the defense. I was in the position meetings. I was helping to break down film. I was getting to do a lot of things, really along the lines of what graduate assistant coaches do. So it was a lot of fun, and being that involved is kind of what made it easy to walk away from that Falcons gig, which was going to be a sweet gig long term had I stuck it out. But, I didn't really want to be washing jocks, considering the stuff that I was lucky enough to be able to do down at Georgia Tech. So that's when I went back there for the 2004 season, which was my last run in college football.
Okay. So were you with the Falcons in like 03 then?
It was training camp for 2004, which was the height of the Mike Vick era.
Okay.
He was the big deal, and it was before the dogfighting thing and his kind of fall from grace. So,
right.
They just come off an NFC Championship game the previous year, so it really made me kind of hesitant to want to walk away, because people had really high expectations for him, and there was a thought that they really had a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. But as it turned out, Jim Mora only lasted, I think, one more year after that, before he moved on to douchier things that I think were a better fit for him.
Yeah, that's one thing about Mike Vick. I always liked him as a player, but after the whole dogfighting thing, man, that really trashed his career, which, I mean, he did it himself, but had that not happened, I think that he would have had quite the story. But anyways, moving on to the next question. What is your favorite defensive formation and why?
In real life, it would probably be the dollar package, because it's pretty versatile. We actually ran that when I was in school at Georgia Tech, and we were one of the first schools to really do it. And we had a lot of bigger schools came and clinicked and tried to pick up on what we were doing, because it's a 3-down lineman, a mirror front basically, and it allows you to kind of flip your defenses. You can come out, and based on how the offensive lines, you can blitz from either side. There can be like directional calls, and it really allows you to specifically attack what the offense is doing. So we were really able to screw with a lot of teams and cause a lot of havoc, whereas back then most of the time teams were running like static 4-down lineman fronts against spread personnel packages. And I read an Urban Meyer book where he talked about that was one of the very easy things for him when he was really starting to blaze the spread offense path, to know what defenses were going to do when they came out in a 4-man front, because it really limits how much you can disguise. You really have to declare to cover your bases before the snap. So, again, running that dollar package allowed us to be a little more versatile and do a little more disguise. So I'm not as big of a fan of the dollar defense in Madden, specifically because the two inside DBs, if you try to flip the play, it wants to run them. It wants to swap them. They they both want to run across the field and like high five each other. And usually when they're high fiving, it's about the time that my opponent snaps the ball, and it ends up being a huge clusterfuck. So the one I really like in Madden is the nickel 2-4-5. It's of course the 2-down lineman. The front four is pretty mirrored. It's obviously you only have a corner on one side, so it's not as easy to flip your defenses on that, but it does allow you to be kind of versatile and still kind of cover your bases by having the look of a 4-man front, but with more versatile personnel.
Okay. So my next question is going to be, Niga just messaged me because I got to play him tonight, so it kind of threw me off for a second.
Nice. Represent our division. Get that W.
Yeah, I need to. I'm hoping things work out, man. I feel like, I don't know, that quarterback I drafted's pretty legit, so we'll see how it works out. But third question here is, it's 4th and 3 in the final seconds of the Super Bowl, and you're 15 yards away from scoring it and winning it. What play do you call and why?
I'm going to kick the field goal and win it. It's easy.
Okay, let's say you needed a touchdown. You're the first person to actually just spit that out. Like, when I asked Ron, he asked me, like, how much time was left. Do you have any timeouts? And Cody just asked what the score was.
Okay. I'm assuming I'm not going to be down by more than 2, so... But, I see what you're getting at. If I need a touchdown, in this league, 99% of the guys are going to be running one of three coverages. They're either going to be running some form of cover two zone, some form of quarters, or two-man. So I would probably come out and run some four-vert concept to try to stress those safeties and maybe hit a hole shot outside to number one, or I may come out in a 3x1, maybe go empty, and then run three guys deep to one side and maybe run a deep cross from the other side. Maybe he can hide in there behind the clear and get in. But definitely going to throw it up, hopefully use one of my stud receivers.
Okay. What are your top three favorite albums to listen to?
Man, this one is really tough. Both of my parents worked in the record business. They worked for Columbia Records, so there was always a lot of music playing around the house. And we had a huge 8-track collection that turned into a huge cassette collection that turned into a huge CD collection. So, but for me, it probably all has to start album-wise with Pink Floyd. I listened to them a lot growing up. My sister, she dated a guy that was in a band, so she kind of turned me on to them. They were like a classic rock band. And so any of the Pink Floyd albums in the 70s I can pretty much just turn on and listen to all the way through, which kind of is different from a lot of, more modern or popish albums where, there's maybe 2-3 good tracks and everything else is just filler. So
Right.
If I had to hone in on, I really like Metal, which is from 1970. I don't know if you've ever heard that. It's got Echoes is probably my favorite song of all time. It's like a 23-minute song. Some of the later 70s Pink Floyd, like Dark Side of the Moon, Animals, The Wall. I mean, it's really hard to narrow it down from there because, like I said, I can listen to any of that stuff all day. But I really do like a broad array of music. Like nowadays, if I had to pick a recent album, I really like D'Angelo, Black Messiah. I really like a lot of R&B. I like a lot of old school R&B. I went and saw Earth, Wind & Fire in concert last year. They're one of my favorite albums. Back in high school, that was the late grunge era. From that era, I would probably have to say Pearl Jam Versus. I listened to that a lot. I know it's a lot more than 3 albums.
Oh,
and then
that's cool.
Definitely Michael Jackson Thriller. That was a big, my family had just moved down to Georgia when that one dropped, and cassettes were just starting to take off. They were working at a cassette plant for Columbia Records, and that album being released and being as huge as it was put a lot of food on the table. And aside from that, I mean, it's one of the iconic albums of all time. It's just filled with great tracks, and even stuff like Lady in My Life, the ones that don't get as much airplay or aren't as famous, I could listen to those, like Human Nature. So Michael Jackson Thriller I'd probably put that in the top 3, probably with 2 other Pink Floyd albums is my top 3. And I could probably pick from 4 or 5 Pink Floyd albums that could fill out those other 2 spots.
Nice. Wow, that's crazy. That's been a theme here in the last 3 episodes now. When I asked that question, everyone's kind of given me a pretty Cody gave me 3 categories with 3 albums in each category, and Ron, he listed, I believe he listed I don't remember if he went by genre or if he just listed 5 or something, but so I kind of like that when I ask that question, I get a wide answer because it's kind of cool, what kind of stuff people are listening to. The 5th question here, so we're at the halfway point. I'm not sure if you're a drinker, but if you are, what is your favorite beer or liquor?
I'm not a huge drinker. Unfortunately, I eat enough fast food to have the liver of a drinker. I've got kind of a fatty liver, so the doc told me not to drink too much. But my mixed drink of choice is a Crown and ginger ale.
Okay.
Not a huge beer drinker. Usually if I'm drinking, it's for buzz. So whatever's going to get me a buzz the fastest. I'm not into the whole craft beer scene. Never really acquired a taste for beer, which I'm sure is probably making your blood run cold. But Usually if I'm drinking, I like to shoot tequila and I like to drink Crown and ginger ale.
I love.
I'm a simple man.
I dig Crown Royal. I like Crown. I like Jameson. Any kind of vodka. But yeah, when it comes to beer, man, I'm pretty like. I don't get into the craft thing either. I mean, there's a beer made here in Minnesota by Third Street Brewhouse called Minnesota Gold that I drank for a while, but I'm more like just your typical Keystone, Coors, Budweiser, the domestics.
It is.
Drink a lot of Busch Light. From time to time, I actually call it Busch Latte.
Nice. Drink any High Life?
Miller?
The Champagne of beers.
Yeah, actually.
That's what we called it in college.
Cody told me that was like his go-to beer, and I know if I ever can I would like to get my buddy Chuck on here, but I don't think he's got a mic. But he actually lives across town from me. He's the Cardinals owner, and I've known him for, I believe we've been watching the Vikings together now going on like 6 or 7 seasons.
Very cool.
So, yeah, he's a big High Life guy. Question number 6. So do you have like any Madden rituals? Like before a Madden game, is there anything that like you always do?
This is going to sound bad, but I got to make sure my cat is somewhere where she's not going to bother me. Usually I'll grab her and stick her outside, and it's funny because she always wants to go outside until I'm trying, like the kickoff is loading up and I'm trying to figure out where she is and put her out. I kind of rearranged my furniture in my living room, so usually if she's on like my staircase and stuff, she's not bothering me, but there have been many interceptions where she's been in my peripheral view where she gets blamed for it. So I know I should be mentally tougher than that, but yeah, making sure that the cat is somewhere where she's not going to be a scapegoat is essential. I usually like to have at least 1 bottle of water or 2. I do get a little. I like to yell at the TV. Ron will tell you I'm a huge rager.
Dude,
or anybody that like. Once shit starts going downhill and once, Madden starts being Madden, I lose my shit pretty easily. Like in my playoff game, actually my neighbor downstairs, they live in Australia half the year, and I forgot they were here. And, I was fucking going crazy. Like, I fumbled on the first play from scrimmage, knocked Alshon out of the game right off the bat. Then I drop an interception, hold the guy to 3 and out. And then he goes to kick the field goal, and they called roughing the kicker. So, I would have held him to a field goal, but he took the points off the board. He scored a touchdown the next play. You look at the replay, like, the guy came off the edge and, like, stopped running. Like, when the ball's going out of the screen, like, he's not even moving, and they called roughing the kicker on him. Like, I don't even think he touched the kicker, so I was just going nuts. I was down 21-0 before I knew it. So then the phone rings, and it's my neighbor, and I'm like, oh, shit. And she's like, I heard a bunch of yelling up there. I wanted to know that you were okay. And I was actually starting to come back at that point. Then I was like, shit, I can't be screaming like this. But yeah, dude. So I have been known to rage, so I need some water to stay hydrated. And then I do like to take a post or a pregame shit a lot of times, like just to kind of take the edge off.
Ironically, so does the Browns owner.
Nice.
Yeah. It's funny, you say that about the cat, because like I'm glad that I'm not the only one here who gets like, dude, I get pretty mad playing Madden sometimes, and like one thing that I've learned to do just because it's better for both of us is I kind of like, I don't mind playing Madden in front of my wife, but it's better when she's like not in the room, because like sometimes if she's drinking wine or something, she likes to like sit back there and talk shit and mess with me, and if I'm getting mad, it doesn't help.
Yeah.
Like, there's been times.
Yeah, I remember hearing her one time, on one of the draft parties. I remember hearing her chirping in your ear when everybody was on the mic.
Yeah, she does that from time to time, but, like, the one time I remember I was getting just pissed at Madden because, like, I was throwing picks and everything else, and she, like, said something to me, and I kind of, like, snapped at her, like, like, what? Like, and she, like, got up, walked on, she's like, oh, it's just a video game. It was like, oh, come on, really? Now I gotta deal with that too. Yeah,
one time in college, like I was playing an online game. It was when online was first starting to be big, and Like my girl and I were arguing, and I threw her purse across the room, and it shattered the screen on her phone. So she goes in, and I thought she was leaving, and she fucking turns the circuit off at like the box and just turned everything off.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, so she kind of got me on that one, but yeah, that's
man,
hostile times.
She's never like shut my shit off, but she's threatened to. She's always like, I'll unplug it, it's just a video game. I should say always, but she's said it before, and it's like, but the thing is, it's not just video games. If you unplug it, then I gotta explain to someone that I didn't quit, that you're just pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, I could go on about that for a while. Actually, before I move on, though, there is one story I want to share, because you brought up throwing the purse thing. When we first started dating, I was playing MLB, like 2K11 or something, on my Xbox 360, and I was in the World Series. I mean, it was just an offline franchise, but I played, like, the whole 162 games. It was World Series. I put so much time into it, and she came in, and it was like ninth inning, and I struck out, and I lost, and she was bothering me when it happened, so it was like her fault, and I remember just getting mad, and I like took my controller and like fastballed it right at the Xbox, and that was the end of that.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, let's see, how long ago was that? 6 years ago?
One time my girl took she took my PS2, and she thought she was going to be cute, and she tried to act like she was slamming it on the bed, and it hit the bed and bounced onto the floor and broke. So she ended up getting me another one, but yeah, that was all like just being belligerent while I'm on the PlayStation.
Yeah, but like, oh man, because I was playing 2K11, so it was like, 6 years ago. So I was 17, nice. 18. Because it was like before I moved out of my parents, so yeah, it was good times. Anyways, so now moving on to the seventh question. What is there any two teams in MLG that you would like to see either meet up in the Super Bowl, or is there one team in specific that you would like to see make the Super Bowl? You know, if you can't think of two that you'd like to see face each other, is there just one that you would like to see in the Super Bowl at least?
I'd like to see Tink in the Super Bowl. Thomas Richard, the Ravens owner. Okay. He's such a great GM. I mean, he's always makes a terrific roster. I mean, he's a good player, but he excels as a GM, and he does a lot for the league in terms of keeping people honest. He's always watching the transaction wire and looking to make sure guys aren't trying to get over on anything. So, yeah, I'd like to see Tink get there and win it. I'd like to see Cody win it, obviously, just because he's one of the founding members of the league, and obviously he knows his football. And I'm surprised that he hasn't won one. And while I'm dropping it, I'd say I'd like to see Terrence Mitchell win one. I think the league is a lot more fun when TM is winning. He brings a lot of spice to the league when things are going well for him. And he's playing good right now, so it wouldn't be the craziest thing that could happen.
Okay. Next question: is there any player in MLG that you prefer to play, and how come?
I mean, like, if we're talking just a chess match, it'd probably be Ron Monte and I. Ron was really my introduction into MLG. He and I started playing NCAA together probably 2008, 2009. So, close to 10 years now, and so he and I have gone to war for many years on the sticks, and you obviously know about his football background probably from your interview with him earlier in the series, but he's a great football mind, and I like to think I bring the best out in him, and he really makes me have to be on my A game to be able to compete with him. So it would definitely have to be big play. Unfortunately, I think I've lost to him in MLG in at least six conference championship games. I've never been to a Super Bowl, and this was probably 2 years ago, we met, I think, in 3 or 4 consecutive conference championship games. 2 of them I had the lead going in the last minute. He took it down the field and scored. So he's definitely my biggest rival and my toughest adversary.
Okay, dang. Yeah, like I said, the one guy, if I had someone too that I like to play the most, I guess it'd probably be Chuck, just because I've worked with him, we've known each other he was in my wedding, he's a good friend of mine. So he's the one who got me into playing Madden online and stuff, and so we've been playing Madden online for 5 years together. So it's always nice when me and him end up in the same league, and every once in a while you see pop up on the schedule. I'm actually in our last 6 matchups, I've only lost one time. But other than that, I was on a 5-win streak against him.
Nice.
So yeah, it's always just fun. Anyways, question number 9 is going to be, what is your favorite thing to do outside of Madden? Do you have any hobbies or just anything in particular that you enjoy doing?
Right now I like playing tennis. It kind of sucks during the winter time, but I played in high school and kind of got out of it. Not a ton of my friends play. I was lucky enough, though, in my condo development. I was playing with a buddy of mine from work, probably May of last year, and I met a guy and his kid who were out there playing. And I've gotten to be really good friends with them and play with them all the time now. During the summer, we play 6 nights a week, and even during the winter, we've usually hit about 3 or 4 times a week. And the kid is 7; he just turned 7, and he's a really special kid. He's a prodigy. He's not big enough to be able to beat me, but he'll get points on me, and he has a chance to be a really good player. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he ends up being a professional one day. So, and he's got a great family. His parents are from Ethiopia, and it's him and his 10-year-old sister, and they're just they live right down the street from me. So, spend a lot of time with them, and like to play tennis. So,
nice.
That's the main thing, yeah.
So. Now we're to question number 10, which is the final question. Who is your favorite, being that you're more of a college guy, but I'm assuming that you have some kind of favorite, either NFL or college player. So who is that favorite player and why?
It's hard I can get it down to 2 pretty easily. Both of them are guys that I knew from my time at Georgia Tech, one from the beginning, one from the end. The guy from the beginning was a quarterback, Joe Hamilton. He was the runner-up for the Heisman Trophy in '99. He did get drafted in the 7th round. He was the Davey O'Brien winner, the best quarterback in the nation. And not a lot of people know about him now. It's been almost 20 years. But, he was an electric college football player. Wasn't really tall enough to get a crack in the NFL. He ended up playing, he played 1 game in the NFL and didn't throw a pass and had 1 scramble for -2 yards. But he was an amazing college quarterback. If anybody ever has a chance to go on YouTube and look at some of what he did. So from a college perspective, I would say Joe Hamilton would be one. And then my last year at Tech in 2004, we had a freshman receiver, Calvin Johnson, who did obviously huge things in the NFL. So it was cool to be able to be around him and see him kind of before everybody knew what he was going to be. Everybody around Tech kind of knew that he was going to be a special player just because of his tools, but he was a great kid, really respectful, had kind of a quiet swag about him, but I wasn't surprised at all when he ended up doing what he did, which included breaking the single-season receiving yardage record. So it would be probably a tie between Joe Hamilton and Calvin Johnson for my favorite 2 players. Both played in the NFL. Obviously, one did more than the other. Calvin Johnson will probably end up being a Hall of Famer. Joe Hamilton actually did just go into the College Hall of Fame, but it's hard to pick between those 2.
Yeah, one thing I can't believe that Calvin Johnson retired when he did. I know he could have played a little longer, but at the same time, everyone's got their own things they want to do. So that's pretty cool, though. I didn't realize that. I guess.
Yeah, it's tough for him because he's so big. Being 6'5", 230. That's a lot of weight to carry around, and he carried it around like small guys don't carry it around. He had the 43-inch vertical and ran the 4.35 40. So I think he was just starting to get banged up, and Like I said, he's a great guy. So he's got a lot of things he wants to do outside of football. So, and part of me was surprised to see him walk away when he did, just because he was still one of the top receivers in the league. But it doesn't surprise me that he would be the type of guy that could move on to something else earlier than one would expect.
Right. Huh. Well, anyways, I've asked all 10 questions. I guess the only other thing I have to say, is there anything that maybe you'd like to ask or say before we call it a show?
No, man. I mean, I think we're getting down a little close to kickoff. Like I said, I got a big game tonight against one of my bigger rivals in BDOT. We go back about 4 or 5 years on the sticks, so
Okay.
I don't get to play them a lot for whatever reason. But when we do, it's tough, and I don't really. I'd much rather have an easy game to start the year, just to kind of get my feet under me. But we're going straight into the deep end tonight again in the Shark Tank, so
Okay.
it'll be fun.
All right. Well, I just want to say thanks for being on the show, Larry, and good luck on the new MLG season. For those of you listening, next week, Thursday night, I'm not really sure who I'm going to have yet. I'm going to try to get B-Dot, actually, because he was supposed to be on last week, but he had something going on, and then I had already pretty much scheduled you for this week, so I got to get a hold of Charles Burnley, otherwise known as B-Dot, and get him on here. So hopefully that's what I have next week, and until then, I'll catch everybody later.